Warning, the following video includes progression and item spoilers for Valheim. It also includes N-Gage footage. That being said, viewer discretion is not advised.
In March of 2002, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast was released on PC, OS X, GameCube, and Xbox. As an 11-year-old with no source of income and no holidays nearby with which to reap the gaming rewards, I was pleasantly surprised to be gifted a PC copy of the game by a family friend. There was so much to love about this game, even as someone who had never played the previous installments, which was the Dark Forces series. Realistic lightsaber combat, force powers, and most notably, a protagonist named Kyle.
Kyle was just talking about you.
How did she know that? I never had the proper skills to complete this game as a child. It's debatable if I do even now, but still I logged dozens of hours on this title. What kept the little me coming back time and time again was the huge variety of cheat codes available. Cheats, at a glance, allow players a helping hand to bypass or alleviate trickier parts of a game. You can use God mode to become invincible or no clip to fly right to the end. Sometimes they're just for a laugh, like big head mode or turning into a washing machine. There's plenty more amusing cheats out there. Let me know about some of your favorites in the comments. There's even times that they straight up improve a game in my opinion. Take Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 for Game Boy Advance for example. This game features 3D models and traditional Tony Hawk gameplay for the first time on a handheld. Well, that is if we aren't counting the N-Gage release of Tony Hawk 1. That one had me pretending I'm a Superman 64. In Game Boy Advance Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, the gameplay is quite zoomed out and it makes it hard to get a good idea of what you're doing on such a small screen. Imagine this on a Game Boy Micro. However, there was a cheat to allow you to play with a zoomed-in camera which greatly improved the experience. The beauty of Jedi Outcast, though, was in how creative the cheats allowed you to be. You could spawn in any enemy or ally in the game on any map, and with proper setup, you could create full war scenarios to watch unfold. How would Luke fare against 100 stormtroopers? How would you? How about the Republic versus the Empire? Just with the console commands available on the consumer release, you could wage and participate in your own Star Wars wars. Another very surprising and incredibly entertaining cheat was Saber Realistic Violence. It allowed players to chop limbs, heads, and torsos off enemies. Very few Star Wars games even today feature limb removal, and generally it is reserved for aliens or non-humanoid types. But here it is in 2002 no less. All available to you, the player, via a developer-provided opportunity to cheat. Alas, cheat codes as a whole have fallen mostly to the wayside. Unlockable content in games has been replaced with DLC or loot box mechanics. God mode or progression skipping has been nixed in part to keep gamers engaged as long as possible and to not break any sort of in-game economy setup. A lot of this came with the advent of games as a service and multiplayer gaming online in general. It can make a lot of sense to not allow cheats on a game where prestige or wallet size is presented via in-game cosmetics or stats. Fewer and fewer titles offer cheats even in their single-player incantations, which is why it was so refreshing and exciting for me to see them introduced in the retro-styled multiplayer survival title recently released into early access, Valheim. For the uninitiated, Valheim is a hardcore survival game set in Viking purgatory. You begin, like most survival games, with nothing but a loincloth, that's more than rust, and from there you follow a series of progression. Beating bosses and finding and refining resources to build better and better gear, food, and shelter. It also features the best clarinet solo in gaming history. If you die, all your stats are reduced by 5% and you return to the last bed you've slept in with none of your items, forced to travel as long as it takes to find your body again and retrieve your goods. Nothing is worse than spending 15 minutes running to your body only to be killed seconds before you retrieve it. However, it's the pressure to stay alive and maintain your possessions that keeps you on your toes and keeps things exciting. Valheim is an early access title. Having personally played a variety of early access survival titles, I know to curb my expectations on initial release. A lot of titles have good bones, but lots of kinks to work out. However, while Valheim is not without its flaws, this is perhaps the most feature-rich and complete title I've played out of the box. It is surprisingly functional and, in my experience, much less buggy than other games in the genre on release. But when bugs do happen in a game where losing your items is equivalent to hours and hours of lost time, any coding slip-ups can be devastating. A few times I watched my friend's gravestone, the item you use to retrieve your goods after death, fall into the ground and effectively disappear forever. One of our players, whose PC was prone to crashes, would log in post-crash to see that their latest player state was not saved and the large amount of resources they were preparing to craft with were in purgatory. But not Viking purgatory, normal non-Viking purgatory, the bad kind. Well, it is purgatory, so the neutral kind, chaotic neutral, their stuff was gone, you get it. This is demoralizing, and while losing your gear or progress is the nature of the game, owing it to a bug ruins the experience for many. Players would log out early in a session with the idea of starting from close to scratch too much of a hill to climb to get back to the fun. If you didn't already see it coming, here's where cheats come in. Valheim allows for cheats to be used freely, albeit only in single player currently. The console commands allow you to spawn in any item you want, rather than painstakingly re-grinding to get resources back to craft the lost gear, which sometimes takes longer than initially due to having to sail to another continent because yours is dry of a certain resource. I'm looking at you, Iron. You can save the night and your well-being by just replacing the item with a few commands. No longer will Cat Wednesday's crashes cost our server 60 black metal. These cheats offer solutions to bugs that would otherwise have prematurely ended one of the best gaming experiences my group has had in years. But bugs aren't the only thing cheats can be used to improve. I'm about 30 years old. I work a full-time job and do gigs on the side. I also live across the country from my gaming friends. This means that the time that we can play together is relatively limited. Survival games like Rust, which at a time where I had less responsibilities I sunk far too much time into, aren't really possible for us to enjoy how they're designed to be. The upkeep of bases, the limited server wipe windows, and the offline raiding makes it more difficult than we'd like to sink our teeth in. Valheim was very much a haven in that way, only progressing when we played, no vitriol from vile players both in chat and gameplay, except for me after making the 5th run to the mountain only to freeze or be eaten by a wolf trying to get my body. Still, there's aspects of the game that might make sense to the developers and to many gamers that don't exactly fit our server's playstyle. One such feature is the way teleporters function in the game. Players are able to craft and link teleporters that can bring you instantly to anywhere on the map you've already visited and placed one. The map is massive in this game, and you could travel by foot or sea for hours just to get to one destination, especially if you don't know where your target is. Teleporters save you a trip back to the base, since you can throw one down wherever you end up and go back home. However, it doesn't allow you to transport some of the most valuable and hard to find resources. Ore. There is a finite, although very large, amount of ore in this game. Once you've wiped your starting continent of the desired ore, you're required to make ship voyages to find and transport it. This adds to the sense of adventure, but it also adds significantly to the time sink. For our server, we decided after a few trips to and fro that we were okay with not making a return voyage for the sake of time. We would explore as normal, make a long boat voyage to a new biome and farm the materials, but then when we were done, we'd use a cheeky trick to teleport it back to our base. Why? Because the extra half hour to full hour it would take and the risk of losing it all was not worth it to us. Whether or not you agree with our choice, the fact is we were permitted to do it by the game, and it allowed us to continue with the parts of the game that we wanted. Did it take hours of gameplay away from us potentially? Yes, but not gameplay we cared to invest. For some people, time becomes so limited it is refreshing to have the option to play on their terms. Now, perhaps you're fascinated by the robust building system in the game. You want to create a grand structure but not worry about the crafting costs and the time sink required. With cheats, Valheim offers you essentially a creative mode where you can build anything with no costs. For me, I see this feature as a bonus. I wouldn't use it to craft structures in my normal world, but you could prototype or design just for fun without spending half or more of your time out exploring for scarce resources, like iron, and also iron. Maybe after you've defeated all the bosses and unlocked all the content currently available, you want some extra challenge. Want to see if you can beat all the bosses at once? Go for it. Army of Grey Dwarfs versus a 2-star goblin? Let's see it. Defend your base from hordes of trolls or mow through armies with OP weapons. These are all additional moments of fun and creativity provided to you with cheats if you want them. For some of you non-cheaters watching, you might feel cheated of your own experience by someone else shortcutting progression. That's natural, but remember that their experience in most cases doesn't affect yours or how you choose to enjoy the game. However, for this to be true, you need to be on a server with people you trust and are on the same page with. Cheats don't work on multiplayer servers per se, but you can bring items and resources you spawn from a single player into any multiplayer session. In the wrong hands, they can be greatly abused and cheapen the experience to a level that isn't worth even trying to enjoy. With no sense of progression or danger, the game can offer very little for players. It is unfortunate that surely on some public servers, cheaters will hinder by the book's players from enjoying the game how they want to. We run a private server with a limited friend group, so these issues don't present themselves. I just felt like it was important to acknowledge that cheats can cut both ways, and it's something to be aware of if you're joining a random server expecting a vanilla experience. Mods are slowly being introduced into Valheim 2 that provide cheat-like effects, bug fixes, and quality of life changes that you couldn't get otherwise. That's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down, but check out Valheim Plus if you're looking to get more granular with your server settings. Valheim is a sandbox best played precisely however you want to. Like Minecraft, it's up to you to choose what to enjoy, and the developers have built-in features to allow you to contour that experience to your taste. The inclusion of these abilities harkens back to an earlier time in gaming where power was given to the player without worry of lost potential profits from DLC. It allows easy solutions to many bugs or issues while the game is still being produced, keeping players engaged as they see fit. Hopefully you can all see the array of emergent gameplay experiences available when game makers give power to the player. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed any of this, please like and subscribe to help me keep producing content. If you didn't like this, please like and subscribe as a funny joke, and someday I'll thank you for it and you'll be like, gotcha, and totally prank me. Bye!